Welcome back to our channel, and hello. Today, we explore a topic that provokes discussion and reflection: the factors that contribute to the perception that many African nations lack true independence. We examine the various elements that shape the notion of restricted independence, from historical legacies to contemporary difficulties. Join us as we set out on this journey to comprehend the ongoing hardships and aspirations of African nations more thoroughly. Therefore, let's get started straight now. The myth of African independence: understanding the real reasons behind lack of true sovereignty. The African continent is a tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions. It is the second largest continent by land area and the second most populous in the world. Yet, despite its vastness and abundance, many African nations still struggle with issues of independence and sovereignty. The reasons behind this lack of true African sovereignty are complex and multifaceted, ranging from the effects of colonialism and neo-colonialism to differences in political systems and corruption. These factors have not only hindered economic growth and development but also perpetuated poverty and inequality, leaving millions of people in dire need of assistance. In this article, we will explore the intricacies of this issue and uncover the root causes of Africa's ongoing struggle for independence. The myth of African independence: understanding the real reasons behind lack of true sovereignty. The African independence myth has been perpetuated for decades, with many believing that African nations were able to gain true sovereignty and self-determination after the end of colonialism. However, a closer examination of the realities on the ground reveals a different story. The truth is that the African independence myth is just that, a myth. In reality, many African nations continue to struggle with both political and economic instability, often due to factors outside of their control. From the legacy of colonialism to ongoing international interference, understanding the real reasons behind the lack of true sovereignty in African nations is key to addressing the issues facing the continent today. For far too long, the narrative surrounding African independence has been one of triumph and liberation. But the reality is that the process of decolonization was messy and complex, with many African nations left to fend for themselves without the necessary infrastructure or resources to truly thrive. And while some leaders were able to make progress towards building democratic institutions and promoting economic growth, they were often hampered by external forces, from meddling foreign powers to multinational corporations looking to exploit resources without providing adequate compensation to local communities. In order to truly move forward and address the issues facing African nations today, we must confront the truth behind the African independence myth. This means acknowledging the ongoing impact of colonialism on the continent, as well as the role that international powers continue to play in perpetuating instability and preventing true sovereignty. Only by understanding the real reasons behind the lack of progress in Africa can we begin to work towards real solutions that address the root causes of these issues. The colonial legacy. The colonial legacy is a major obstacle to true sovereignty in Africa. Despite achieving political independence, many African nations continue to rely on their former colonizers, leading to economic exploitation and dependency. The colonial legacy. The African Union and sovereignty aim to empower nations by dismantling oppressive legacies of the past. Rectifying historical inequities due to colonization is key to moving towards a future of genuine sovereignty and self-determination. It's time to confront the past and understand the challenges ahead. Neo-colonialism and economic dependence. African independence did not bring liberation from neo-colonialism and economic dependence. Decades later, Africa is still subjugated to foreign powers and Western corporations freely exploit its natural resources. This leaves most African nations impoverished and dependent on foreign aid. African leaders often prioritize foreign interests over their own people, further contributing to neo-colonialism. African sovereignty must be attained to shatter the myth of its independence. Only then will Africa be able to thrive and fulfill its potential. Political instability and external intervention. African politics always provides discussion topics. African independence is a topic that gained attention in recent years. Although Africa seems to be free from external control for decades, political instability and external interference are the reality. African countries struggle to have a functioning democracy because of colonialism and imperialism. Western intervention in African politics is a centuries-old issue, with governments being toppled, and dictators propped up. These actions don't prioritize the interests of African people but are done to maintain foreign political and economic power. African independence requires a critical examination. For example, in April 2011, President Laurent Gbagbo, the incumbent, was arrested by the United Nations and French forces and was taken to The Hague. He was immediately replaced by the Western stooge called Alassane Ouattara, approved by Mr. Choi Young, the United Nations mission chief. Neo-colonialists must be held accountable, and African people empowered to claim their own destiny and sovereignty. Cultural and ideological imposition. Achieving true African sovereignty is a complex issue that goes beyond simplistic narratives of colonization and decolonization. One major obstacle is the ongoing cultural and ideological imposition that shapes African societies. Eurocentrism's legacy is evident in everything from education to media. African traditions and languages are often sidelined or even demonized. This fosters a sense of inferiority and dependency that's hard to shake. Furthermore, Western neoliberalism has led to a focus on economic growth at the expense of social justice and environmental sustainability. This perpetuates a cycle of exploitation and inequality far from the democracy and self-determination ideals. Addressing these factors is key to achieving African sovereignty. End note. In summary, the lack of true independence across African countries is a perplexing and multi-layered issue, with roots in both colonialism and post-colonial governance. The legacy of colonization has left many African countries with a fractured and unequal society, with elites holding on to power through coercion and corruption. Additionally, external powers continue to play a significant role in African politics, perpetuating a cycle of economic dependency and political instability. While progress has been made in terms of democratization and economic growth, true independence and self-determination remain elusive for many African nations. It is imperative that these issues are recognized and addressed in order to create a more equitable and just world. And that wraps up our exploration of the reasons why African countries are often perceived as not truly independent. We hope this video has provided you with valuable insights and sparked thoughtful conversations. Remember, understanding the complexities of African nations' struggles for true independence is an ongoing process, and it requires continued engagement and support. We encourage you to share your thoughts and perspectives in the comments section below. What are your ideas for promoting greater independence in African countries? How can we collectively address the challenges discussed in this video? Stay engaged, keep seeking knowledge and embracing diverse perspectives. Thank you for watching.